Han Li, at the early Nascent Soul stage, with his old acquaintance, old Ancestor Linghu, and Nan Wan's senior sister, the two of them were being hunted down, fleeing for their lives. Han Li decisively took action. With his immense divine abilities, he left these two mid-Nascent Soul stage cultivators completely and utterly stunned. At this moment, seeing Han Li take the initiative to stand at the forefront, looking as if he was preparing to block Marquis Nan Long head-on, old Ancestor Linghu and the white-robed woman were instantly overjoyed. They exchanged a glance. Han Li's reputation was now quite considerable. He was considered a presence second only to those at the late Nascent Soul stage. This couldn't help but give the two of them some confidence. Immediately, the two of them moved their lips slightly, communicating via voice transmission. They at once split to the left and right, slowly moving forward, preparing to assist Han Li from the flanks. Marquis Nan Long saw that Han Li was completely unaffected by his words, and seemed to possess an extremely firm mind. He frowned slightly without realizing it, but a ferocious expression soon reappeared on his face. Without a word, Han Li stomped his foot. His body trembled, leaving behind an afterimage, and he suddenly vanished from his original spot. Han Li's expression was calm on the surface, but inwardly, he was on maximum alert. However, when he swept the area with his divine sense, he couldn't detect the opponent's whereabouts at all. As expected of an ancient demon, just this technique of hiding and concealment alone is enough to suppress an ordinary cultivator, he thought grimly. Han Li, however, narrowed his eyes unhurriedly. A blue light flashed in his eyes. The bright sight spirit eyes technique was skillfully unleashed by him. Suddenly, he flicked one hand. The golden fox on his arm immediately shot out and descended upon a seemingly empty spot. Instantly, the roar of electric arcs filled the air. A strange scene appeared. In the spot that originally seemed empty, a black light flashed. Marquis Nan Long had silently appeared there. The moment his figure appeared, he saw countless golden arcs of all sizes, raining down from directly above his head. He couldn't help but be slightly startled, but his expression immediately turned grim as he shook his shoulders. A large number of afterimages emerged. After the numerous electric arcs landed, all the afterimages were destroyed, but his real body had strangely vanished without a trace. Han Li's lips were tightly shut. The blue light in his eyes flickered incessantly. He tilted his head and looked to one side, but he suddenly raised his other arm, aiming in the opposite direction. With a crack of thunder, a thick golden arc shot out from the palm of his hand in an instant. Its target was an ordinary spot 60 or 70 feet away. As a result, just as the golden arc shot forward, Marquis Nan Long's figure happened to materialize right there. It was as if he had actively moved into its path. He could only watch helplessly as the thunder roared, and the electric arc struck towards him. This time, Marquis Nan Long was truly astonished. The first time could be called a fluke, but to be able to find him accurately twice in a row, this was definitely not a coincidence. His opponent could truly see through his movements. This time, Han Li's timing for the attack was perfect. Seeing the golden arc about to strike him, Marquis Nan Long had no way to dodge. With his brows suddenly furrowed, he could only open his mouth. A ball of black-red demonic flame shot out. It collided directly with the golden arc. With a soft sizzle, after the flame and the golden arc flashed, like fire and water, they both turned into a wisp of green smoke and vanished. And this time, it was Han Li's turn for his expression to change drastically. This demonic flame could actually block the evil warding divine lightning. What in the world was this black-red demonic flame to be so incredibly powerful? However, Han Li, upon careful observation, also noticed, in the instant that the ball of demonic flame flickered out, Marquis Nan Long's face had inadvertently turned pale, although it returned to its normal color in the blink of an eye. But that black and red demonic pattern was clearly, absolutely no ordinary thing. It was most likely also connected to golden essence soul power in some way. Han Li had yet to figure out how to use this situation. When Marquis Nan Long also extinguished the golden arc, his figure suddenly shot forward, his entire body bizarrely stretched out in an instant, as if he were boneless. He abruptly arrived in front of Han Li. After giving Han Li a sinister smile, a pair of his fists, wrapped in demonic che, came smashing down fiercely. Han Li's expression remained calm. After unhurriedly taking a small half-step back, a strange thunderous sound erupted from behind him. A pair of silver-white wings appeared amidst a fluorescent glow. Then, a sharp crack of thunder sounded out. Han Li calmly disappeared within a silver arc. Seeing this, Marquis Nan Long was first taken aback, but after his gaze swept around, he began to sneer. The thunder evasion technique. You certainly know a lot of tricks. But what a pity, heh. Amidst his mocking laughter, Marquis Nan Long transformed into a wisp of black she, and likewise vanished into thin air. from Marquis Nan Long charging over to attack Han Li, to him unleashing the evil warding divine thunder, and then both of them disappearing simultaneously. It all happened in just an instant. In the distance, old Ancestor Linghu, the moment they met, the two sides engaged in battle. He had wanted to immediately use his magic treasure to support Han Li, but the moment the two of them clashed, it was as fast as lightning and thunder. There was simply no way to interfere. Now, both of them had vanished without a trace. This left old Ancestor Linghu and senior sister Nan Long completely dumbfounded. They couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. But then, they became highly vigilant. They each hurriedly released a defensive magic treasure to protect their entire bodies, to prevent that Marquis Nan Long from launching a sneak attack. After all, the two of them lacked Han Li's kind of divine ability, the power to see through an opponent's concealment technique. At that moment, a peal of thunder rang out. Han Li was far from his original spot when he reappeared at a location over 60 feet away. But at almost the exact same moment, a black mist manifested behind Han Li. Marquis Nan Long had also appeared silently. A vicious sneer formed on her lips, and she smashed down mercilessly with both fists. Han Li did not turn around. His divine sense instantly perceived everything behind him, but he had no way to dodge. He could only pour all his spiritual power into the blue light shield, injecting it with all his might. He had to block this attack first and foremost. He had just used the tactic of lying in wait to teach his opponent a lesson. He never expected it would be his turn so soon, only to be caught by his opponent. While he was shocked to his core, he was also utterly bewildered. Two loud bangs echoed out, the same treatment old Ancestor Linghu had just endured. Han Li experienced it in its entirety. The blue light mist around his body trembled. His body was involuntarily sent flying. Most of the magical power he had gathered was also by these two punches violently scattered. The thunder escape technique could no longer be activated. Marquis Nan Long let out a wild laugh. His figure transformed into a furious gust of wind, fiercely chasing after the direction Han Li was sent flying. He prepared to land a fatal blow on Han Li with his fist. Han Li was in midair, unable to control his body, but his face showed no trace of alarm or joy. After seeing the opponent's methods against old Ancestor Linghu, how could he possibly be completely unguarded against this? Although he couldn't summon much magical power, but some techniques could defeat an enemy without him lifting a finger. Although his body was momentarily too numb to move, his hands had already recovered most of their function in an instant. He snatched a certain spirit beast pouch from his waist and threw it straight at Marquis Nan Long. Marquis Nan Long was startled. Before he could get a clear look at what it was, a loud bark suddenly erupted from the pouch. Thousands of gold bugs swarmed out. A cloud of golden bugs formed in the blink of an eye. It swept towards Marquis Nan Long, enveloping him from above. Although Marquis Nan Long didn't recognize the gold bugs, but the gold bugs, their primeval aura as ancient, bizarre insects, made his heart shudder. Not daring to be careless, he grabbed at the bug cloud with one hand. A ghost claw with armored scales, burning with grayish-white flames, materialized above the cloud of bugs. It unceremoniously scooped down. Instantly, most of the gold bugs had no time to dodge. They were snatched up by the ghost claw. Then, the grayish-white flames on the ghost claw suddenly flared up several feet. Even the other gold bugs that weren't caught were all completely enveloped within the flames. Afterward, he sneered, and was about to give chase to Han Li again. But at this moment, the woman in white finally found her chance. She summoned her precious mirror once again. A pillar of 5-colored light descended from the sky, shining down on Marquis Nan Long. Meanwhile, old Ancestor Linghu tapped the hazy white ring circling above his head. Instantly, the ring flashed, and also shot towards Marquis Nan Long. Seeing this, Marquis Nan Long was enraged. But with a slight sway of his body, he dodged the pillar of 5-colored light. Although this pillar of light was a bit tricky for him, as long as he wasn't trapped by it, it simply couldn't do anything to him. As for the ring shot by Na Fei, it was clearly another treasure meant to restrict movement. But with his speed, moving like the wind, how could this item possibly get near him? He didn't need the claws striking all over his body. Instead, he swung both his arms, with a pair of fists, meeting the oncoming attack with lightning speed. The two sharp claws of two attacking puppets. Low thuds were heard. The black energy on his fists barely touched the sharp claws, and they were completely unable to harm his fists. On the contrary, under the impact of the black energy, their claws and arms shattered inch by inch. But the two puppets had no fear of death, nor would their magical power be dispersed by the blow. Thus, with a flash of cold light, their other two sharp claws coordinated with the other puppets and struck down. The male Longho let out a strange laugh and sneered. His shoulders swayed slightly, and with a whoosh, he vanished from his spot. The numerous claw attacks instantly missed their target. Then, 2 more thuds were heard in midair. The male Long whose figure appeared outside the encirclement. He was pulling his 2 arms from the chests of 2 tiger-waisted puppets. Although puppets do not have hearts, but having sustained such severe damage, they naturally lost control and plummeted from the sky. Nan Longho's fists were as hard as steel. Even the meticulously crafted bodies of the tiger-waist puppets could not block them in the slightest. However, this strike from Nan Long was merely a move of convenience. His true target was naturally Han Li, who had yet to recover his mobility. Therefore, after destroying the 2 puppets with 1 strike, his movements didn't pause for a moment. Without waiting for the other puppets to surround him, he appeared before Han Li in a flash. He threw a punch without the slightest hesitation. Han Li, in the light mist, was still unable to muster his magic power, but, as he stared at the opponent's fist, which was wreathed in demonic energy, his face showed no sign of panic. Instead, a strange expression appeared on his face. Seeing this, Nan Long was alarmed and suspicious, as he secretly wondered what Han Li's intention was. Countless sharp, whistling sounds erupted from behind his head. It seemed as if something had suddenly burst forth to attack from point-blank range. Nan Long was startled. With no time to think, he retracted his fist. His body suddenly swayed left and right in a peculiar manner. All of a sudden, countless afterimages burst forth. His true form instantly vanished without a trace among the afterimages, and in the spot where he had just been standing, countless green claw-like beams of light struck down from thin air. They instantly tore those afterimages to shreds. Then, a green light flashed. A being covered in green fur, a monster with a skull-like face, materialized out of thin air. It stared coldly at Marquis Nan Long without a word. It was the one Han Li had used the heavy puppets as cover to secretly summon Demon Master Tanju. Marquis Nan Long had only been paying attention to the tiger demon puppets, and in a moment of carelessness, he failed to notice. The Demon Master had been hiding at the side, and its sneak attack almost succeeded. After the corpse refining, Marquis Nan Long got a clear look at the Demon Master. He cried out in some surprise. At this moment, the remaining tiger demon puppets instantly turned back and gathered around Han Li. But Han Li suddenly raised both his hands at the same time, with his 5 fingers spread open. Golden light flickered in one hand, as a thick arc of golden lightning crackled and leapt out. A loud clap of thunder rang out. In his other palm, a purple light flashed. A small ball of purple flame silently floated into existence. After doing all this, Han Li glanced expressionlessly at the demon soul. Seeing this, Marquis Nan Long snorted. He knew that his opponent's spiritual power was back under control. Pressing him further was now useless. But what made him worry was that his opponent had already unleashed so many evil-warding divine lightning bolts, yet his power was still not completely exhausted. This made him feel rather unsettled. If he remembered correctly, before he was sealed, although this demon dispelling divine lightning against their Gumo clan, the damage is immense. But those who possess treasures with demon dispelling divine lightning are exceedingly rare. Even with a treasure containing this divine lightning, it can only be released once or 2 times at most before being exhausted. Otherwise, when their Gumo clan crossed into the human realm back then, how could they have been so unrivaled in this realm? But this person before me seems to have an endless supply of demon dispelling divine lightning within him. He uses it without any restraint. This could be troublesome. What made him even more hesitant was, on the opponent's other hand, the purple flame that suddenly appeared also sent a chill through his heart. Although he didn't know what this flame was, the very moment he saw this thing, he could sense its immense danger. It was clear this thing was no ordinary item. As for those mechanical puppets, he wasn't too concerned about them. After all, if he let his guard down, they might still cause him some trouble. But in a real fight, they wouldn't be of much use. Even the aura of that strange refined corpse is a bit odd. At most, it's just like adding another early-stage Nascent Soul opponent. Was also inconclusive. The demon soul possessed Nan Long attacked, but failed to defeat his opponent. He couldn't help but ponder for a moment. Meanwhile, on the other side, old Ancestor Linghu and the woman in white saw that Han Li and Nan Long had temporarily ceased their fight. They felt a wave of uncertainty, so they didn't dare to directly command the ancient fortress to attack. They merely had the 5-colored pillar of light and the ring hover above Nan Long, poised and ready to strike. It was unclear what kind of treasure the inner ring was. It was even humming faintly as it grew and shrank in size. At that moment, a crackling sound erupted from the side. Nan Long turned his head to look. Somewhat surprised, he saw only a ball of grayish-white flame suddenly explode in midair. A golden cloud flew out from the flames unharmed, buzzing loudly, and after the flames dissipated, the armored scale ghost claw that was originally inside had vanished without a trace. Nan Long, whose expression changed slightly, his face instantly darkened, and once that golden cloud broke free, it immediately shot towards Han Li to attack. I never thought you'd have so many divine abilities. It seems that using ordinary means to take your Nascent Soul is truly a bit troublesome. In that case, I'll just have to kill you in one fell swoop and eliminate this problem for good. This body is just a temporary vessel I'm using. It doesn't matter even if it gets damaged. After a moment of silence, Marquis Nan Long said with a ferocious expression on his face. Finally he took a deep breath. A dark demonic aura suddenly erupted from his body. At the same time the joints in his body shuddered. A strange cracking and popping sound was heard. Then his form changed. After growing several feet taller, deformed bones protruded from his neck and shoulders. It was as if something was about to burst from within his body and emerge. Upon seeing this, Han Li was stunned for a moment, but he reacted immediately, raising both hands at once. Instantly several golden arcs of light in one hand intertwined, transforming into a golden python, which he flung forward. In his other hand, a seemingly ordinary purple fireball was fiercely shot out. At the same time Han Li let out a low hum. The golden insect cloud that had just returned also floated out from above his head. The tiger demon puppets and the heavenly devil Shai, transformed from Shaizi, remained in place without moving, to guard against a sneak attack from the enemy. On the other side, old Ancestor Linghu and the woman in white would naturally not allow Marquis Nan Long to leisurely cast some powerful technique. Previously the opponent, with just his physical body alone, would have beaten them both into a hasty retreat. Coupled with that unknown and bizarre demonic art, then they would be in danger once again. The two immediately exchanged a glance, and simultaneously formed hand seals, directing the treasures in the air. Instantly, a five-colored pillar of light was the first to shine down, and ahead of Han Li's attack, it arrived above Marquis Nan Long a step earlier. Meanwhile, the hazy white ring suddenly expanded wildly, transforming into a massive ring that descended to ensnare it. The demonic soul remained indifferent to all of this. Just as the pillar of light was about to strike its body, the black shell instantly engulfed its form. As a result, the moment the five-colored pillar of light made contact, it vanished with a flash within the black shell, as if it had been completely devoured. At that moment, Han Li's golden fox and purple fireball, as well as the giant white ring, all struck at once. The golden insect cloud was slightly slower, but it was following close behind. With a shudder of its black shell, it instantly shot backward. Its movement speed was unbelievably fast. Controlled by Han Li and the others, all the attacks pursued it relentlessly. In that brief moment, a mass of black shell as large as a tree could be seen in the air, darting and flashing erratically from left to right, and behind it, a golden arc that had transformed into a python, along with the giant ring. The insect cloud and other attacks were in hot pursuit. Its speed and evasion path were truly bizarre. These attacks were actually unable to catch up and lock onto it for a moment. Seeing this, the woman in white, unwilling to give up, continued to control from her position the treasure mirror in her hand, sending out one beam of light after another. The five-colored pillars of light fell ceaselessly, but they also could not keep up. They all missed the South Ridge Ape's movements, one by one, as the pursuit went on. In the blink of an eye, a short while had passed. Although Han Li was using his divine sense to control and activate those golden blades and purple nets, his brows were tightly knitted and his expression grew grim. Kid, if you do not have any other powerful trump cards, I advise you to flee for your life at once. The Gumo are vastly different from the cultivators of our mortal realm. They are all ferocious and warlike. Every single one of them has extremely rich combat experience. Although the ones who crossed realms cannot possibly be the most ferocious high-level Gumo. Once they get serious, you are absolutely no match for them. This old man has not yet finished creating my final puppet, and I do not wish to meet my end here with you. Divine Lord Great Eye's voice suddenly transmitted to him. Hearing this, Han Li showed no intention of replying, but after a flash of green light on his face, he suddenly shuddered. A clear chiming sound suddenly came from his sleeves. Dozens of small golden swords swam out from his cuffs like fish. In an instant, they transformed into dozens of golden streaks of light, each about a foot long. It began to circle and dance around Han Li. Expressionlessly, Han Li continuously formed a series of hand seals and cast them out. All the sword lights trembled a few times, instantly splitting into over 100 identical golden lights. At the same time, their brilliance shone forth brightly. He formed a hand seal with both hands. With a low shout, the over 100 sword lights buzzed in unison. Then, with a shudder all around, they strangely vanished one by one from their spots. In the blink of an eye, Hanli had set up the Great Jing sword formation before him. Oh, a sword formation. So, you still had a few tricks you hadn't used. Then suit yourself. Consider what I just said unsaid. However, I would very much like to see what kind of sword formation gives you such confidence. Monarch Da Yan let out a soft sound of surprise, and said lazily, Senior, you will know in a moment. If the ancient devil's true body were to descend into my sword formation, it is truly hard to say if it could harm him. But since he is possessing one of our human cultivators, once he enters my sword formation, even if he does not die, he will be severely wounded. Once the sword formation is completely set up, Hanli calmly said via voice transmission, Heh, kid, don't talk so big. From the beginning until now, you've relied entirely on the brute force of your demonized body to fight against us. The power of the ancient demon arts is something you have yet to witness firsthand. The great Divine Lord sneered, and said dismissively, To hear you talk, it's as if you've seen it yourself. Have you not never entered the fallen Demon Valley? Hanli's heart stirred. He intentionally asked another question. Humph. If I haven't seen it, does that mean I can't have heard about it? Back then, a few of my closest friends, although their divine abilities were far inferior to mine, were by no means ordinary cultivators. Yet even when they joined forces, only one of them managed to escape on the brink of death. This just goes to show how formidable the ancient demon's demonic arts are. The great Divine Lord snorted a few times, with a clear intention of giving him a reality check. Hanli listened and smiled, just as he was about to ask another question. From within the black shuffling in the distance, a pained roar suddenly erupted. Then, within the murky demonic che, a tornado-like wind suddenly whipped up. All the black che was swept away and scattered, revealing the contorted figure of the man inside. Old Ancestor Linghu. When he and the woman in white got a clear look at their opponent, their faces changed drastically as they sucked in a cold breath of air. Is this still human? The male ape-like creature before them had completely turned into a two-headed, four-armed monster. On its neck, one in front and one behind, one large and one small, were two ferocious, twisted heads. On its front and back grew four demonic arms that reached past its knees. On the face of the front head, patches of purple scales had appeared. A white horn several inches long also protruded from its forehead, but judging from its eyebrows, eyes, nose, and size, it was still the original head. But behind the neck of this head, another one had been forcefully squeezed out, a slightly smaller head that looked exactly like a hellish ghost, although it also had a horn on its forehead and scales on its cheeks. Its face had green eyes and long fangs, with pitch black lips. As they opened and closed, a blackish purple, long tongue covered in fleshy barbs spat out foul blood. The tongue flickered out and retracted in a flash, just like a venomous snake. What was even more chilling was that the pupils in this head's eyes were narrow like a phoenix's, shimmering with a silver-white, cold light. As its eyeballs moved, they contained not a single trace of emotion. At a glance, it was clearly not something a human could have. Not just the head, the body from the neck down and its four long arms were also covered in deep purple scales. They were packed densely together, completely impenetrable. The tips of its 10 fingers grew nails that resembled bone spurs. They gleamed with a silvery white light as they opened and closed, looking incomparably sharp. Seeing this chilling and terrifying appearance, although old Ancestor Linghu and the woman in white felt their hearts sink, the two of them had lived for countless years, so naturally, their cultivation prevented them from being easily frightened. Upon seeing Marquis Nan Long reveal his true form, he stood still on the spot. They simultaneously directed their treasures to attack him. A 5-colored pillar of light flashed, instantly trapping Marquis Nan Long within it. Old Ancestor Linghu was overjoyed. Seizing this opportunity, the giant white ring immediately descended to bind the demonic soul. The front-facing head was expressionless, just like that of a dead person, but the one behind it grinned widely, a hint of mockery curling at the corners of its mouth. Seeing the giant ring flash and suddenly appear above its head, dropping straight down, he, still within the 5-colored pillar of light, waved his 4 arms lightly. Instantly, his 4 demonic hands flickered with a purple light. It struck out, grabbing the soaring firmly. Its movements were not the least bit sluggish. This move greatly startled Patriarch Linghu, but he hurriedly formed a magical seal. With just a single command, the inner cloud ring burst with a radiant light. It trembled violently, trying to break free, but the 4 large hands were like pillars of bronze and iron. It couldn't be shaken at all. The head on the back of the demon soul let out a cold sneer. It suddenly opened its mouth. A glob of ink-black liquid shot out from its mouth. It landed right on the ring. The ancient treasure, originally shimmering with spiritual light, was hit by the black liquid. It dimmed instantly, all its spiritual light dispersing. At the same time, it turned as black as ink, and began to flicker with a sinister, dark light. My ring of renown, Patriarch Linghu cried out in shock. The moment the ring's color changed, he had actually lost his connection with the ring, his spiritual connection to the ancient treasure. His face instantly turned pale and bloodless. That this demon soul actually had a way to defile the ancient treasure and snatch it for its own use. It was truly unbelievable. At this moment, 3 of the demon souls for demonic hands released the ring. Only one demonic hand held the object tightly. It waved it gently a few times. Layers of overlapping phantom rings appeared. Both heads revealed a look of satisfaction. Not bad, not bad. I was just worrying that I had the few treasures on hand. This one is just so-so. It will serve its purpose perfectly. The front head of the demonic soul spoke in a human tongue. At the same time, its other 3 arms swept across its body. Light flashed. In one of its other 2 hands, a black banner appeared, and in the other, a small sword that also shimmered with a dark light. Its last hand remained empty-handed. Heh. Although right now I can at most use a few of you cultivators' treasures, but these few are more than enough for a while. The old demonic soul let out an eerie laugh. Meanwhile, Hanli had been distracted setting up the formation, causing the golden arcs and fireballs to slow down, and they fell far behind. As for the swarm of golden devouring gold bugs, they had originally been keeping pace, but once they saw the demonic soul reveal its 2-headed, 4-armed form, they unexpectedly stopped advancing out of fear. They just began to circle restlessly on the spot. Through his spiritual connection, Hanli could naturally feel the devouring gold bugs' instinctive fear. He was inwardly surprised and doubtful. Moreover, upon seeing this demon use its 2-headed, 4-armed, demonic technique, he instantly recalled the image on the Brahma Saint True page, and the one from Sage King Kun's immortal abode. The demonic form with 3 heads and 6 arms. I wonder what the connection is between the 3 of them. And that chess piece in the demon soul's hand was precisely the one belonging to the old man surnamed Lu, the gale-summoning fortress that commands the fierce winds. And the small sword looked extremely familiar. After a moment of thought, he then remembered. This item was actually from the fortress of the ancient cultivator's remains. To think it had been taken and was now being used by this creature. But regardless of the connection, this was certainly not the time to be digging for answers. He had to provoke this death demon and lure it into the great formation. That was the only way. Thinking of this, Hanli's face darkened as he suddenly urged his attack forward. The swarm of golden insects. At the same time, the evil dispelling divine lightning and the purple fireballs accelerated, rushing towards the demon together. Seeing this, the demon soul, its 2 heads simultaneously, let out a strange, rhythmic cackle. Suddenly, its neck became a blur, and its heads unexpectedly swapped positions. The head in front moved to the back, while the ghastly demon's head shifted to the very front, flicking its purplish red tongue nonstop. The sight was utterly bizarre. The transformed demon soul stared coldly at Hanli and his ferocious attack. Clearly, it had no intention of backing down. He waved his 4 arms lightly. At the same time, he raised the 3 treasures in his hands high. Instantly, the small sword, the magic banner, and the round ring all burst forth with a dark light. It looked as if Hanli and this soul of the ancient demon were about to have another great battle. But just at that moment, a sudden, thunderous, strange roar came rumbling from the distance. The roar was so immense, like clanging brass and rolling thunder. It came in waves from a faraway place. It seemed as if the owner of the voice was exceptionally furious, as if it had flown into a berserk rage. Even for Ancestor Linghu and the others, hearing it from so far away, their minds were still shaken upon hearing it. With looks of horror on their faces, upon hearing such an astonishing roar, there was a slight tremor. The 2 heads of the demon soul opposite him had their expressions changed drastically at the same time. He suddenly withdrew the treasures in his hands. His figure flickered. Without a second thought, he transformed into a streak of black light and fled backwards. At the same time, a similar long laugh erupted from his mouth. In the blink of an eye, he sped away like lightning. Looking at the direction he was heading, it was exactly where that laughing sound had come from. Hanli was startled at first. After a moment of hesitation, he pointed his finger. Zhang Jinhu, the purple apex fire and the insect cloud both came to a halt. Then, he narrowed his eyes. He stared at the demon soul, which had turned into a black dot. His expression became somewhat uncertain. If he remembered correctly, the place where that shriek had occurred was exactly where the astonishing shockwave had erupted not long ago. It was also the location marked on the Demonfall Valley map he had obtained. Could it be that something truly astonishing was happening there? However, The demon soul flew away in such a hurry, and it even let out that laugh in response. Could there be another ancient demon there? Han Li. In the blink of an eye, he had considered every possibility. With a contemplative expression, he stood motionless. The woman in white and old Ancestor Linghu, seeing the demon soul suddenly turn and fly away, both felt a great sense of relief in their hearts. The expressions on their faces relaxed. The condensing light mirror, the treasure the woman in white so heavily relied on, had been unable to trap Marquis Nan Long, so her heart had been in a state of constant unease. And although old Ancestor Linghu had lost a treasured artifact, and was greatly pained by it, he was still able to preserve his life. He also felt quite fortunate in his heart. If he hadn't happened to run into Han Li here, he and the great elder of the Hewan sect were truly in a perilous situation. Originally, another friendly cultivator who was with them was caught completely off guard, and was killed when Nan Long instantly tore out his Nascent Soul. Now, seeing that the demon soul had truly fled far away, with no possibility of it returning, old Ancestor Linghu and the woman in white exchanged a glance, and finally approached Han Li. The divine abilities Han Li had just displayed were simply astonishing. The two of them naturally couldn't just fly away from this place without a word. Fellow Taoist Han, this time, this old man must thank you for saving my life. Otherwise, this old man would not have escaped this calamity. Old Ancestor Linghu said with extreme politeness, cupping his hands. At the same time, his gaze shifted, and he couldn't help but size up the motionless, tiger-waisted puppet by Han Li's side, and the Tianju demon corpse that was emitting a yin-cold aura. He sighed to himself. A sliver of envy couldn't help but rise in his heart.